Hey guys, good morning. I want to welcome you back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast. I'm joined by a very special guest, Wes Davenport. He's a co-host on the Pindown Podcast with Blake Silverman over at the Detroit Bad Boys. He's also a producer over at the Pistons Pulse, real MVP over there. So, Wes, thank you so much for joining the show today.
Thank you for having me on, and thank you for kind of adjusting your schedule. We were talking before the show. You're doing like 2 podcasts a day, so I know that sleep is critical for you, and yet you were willing to get up. I'm sure I'm waking up some of your viewers too, willing to get up in the morning here on a Saturday and record this one with me. So I appreciate you for that, and I appreciate you for giving us the invite back. Blake couldn't make it today, but I'm sure we'll have you on, and then I'm sure that both of us will get on in the future again as well. These are always fun.
For sure. The last podcast we had in the summer was a lot of fun. I went back and actually watched that recently, kind of seeing like if I had any crazy takes, and I definitely did. So it's always good to watch
Man,
back.
what were your crazy takes? Can we reminisce? I don't know if I remember them.
We were talking about like Javante Green, we didn't know if he was going to actually like be a real player in the rotation.
Oh man, yeah,
Yeah,
right. The most impactful signing, Javante. He's played well though. Like we got to give him that.
I know he's been really big with the absence of, Karis LeVert obviously missed a couple of games to start up the season, but we're going to have a really fun show for you guys. A lot of stuff that we do want to kind of touch on and talk about. So with it being basketball season, we're 5 games in. We do have a little bit of data with this team. What's your takeaway with these slow starts with the Detroit Pistons in the first quarter? I feel like when I'm watching them, they just come out like a step slow. It feels like guys miscommunicate on sets in the first. From your vantage point, why do you think they're starting off so damn slow?
Well, I mean, just for the start, like you brought up earlier today when you and I were just chatting, like this isn't us just making it up. So if any fans like a little bit nervous, thinking like, oh, is it just me? And are we just being too critical about the Pistons and the slow starts? No, not yet. They're 29th in the league in first quarter scoring here, first quarter starts. Was that actually net rating that you were looking at? Because I believe that too. Yeah, so they're 29th at the league in net rating in the first quarter. So we're not making this up. This has been a trend for sure. They've been very bad. And honestly, Anthony, I think it's kind of a mix of a lot of things. Like you've got some of the spacing issues, and I think that has popped up. You've got teams sagging way off of Asar Thompson into the paint. That's getting things clogged up for Cade, obviously, which isn't great. At the same time, like sometimes when Asar's got the ball in his hands too, he's even facing some unique coverages. They're sending blitzes at Cade. There's no real other ball handler in the starting lineup right now outside of Cade. And of course, maybe Jaden Ivey coming back in maybe a month or so from now. That helps, but that's also a step back on shooting. There's just a lot of stuff going on. And I think on top of it all, we do have to factor in that this team added some new players, right? The chemistry is not what it was last year, because last year you had 82 games to get to what we eventually saw out of them in the playoffs. And, you've got Duncan Robinson, Karis LeVert, Javante Green's been getting minutes. We've seen Chaz Lanier. We've seen Dennis Jenkins early on. Paul Reed's been thrown into some action early in the season with foul trouble. Like there's just been some weird groupings that I think have gotten played that even in first quarters that we maybe would not have really expected. So I bring that all up to say, especially with the case of Robinson, the starting lineup, you have to understand these guys practice all training camp and preseason with Jaden Ivey in that starting group. And then now it's not only that, hey, we're trying to integrate a new guy here in Duncan Robinson. It's also, we've not played with him in this starting group until literally game 5 of the preseason. That was the first time we really saw that. So I do think that that's all a factor of it as well. So is it one thing? To me, I don't think it's one thing. I think they've got a lot of stuff going on all at once. I don't know if they're necessarily like a step slow. I think the defensive effort's been pretty good for the first 5 to 6 minutes. And then you kind of get into this kind of pernicious cycle where you're missing shots. You're dejected because you're missing shots. Those long rebounds lead to transition opportunities, and it kind of snowballs on them as they start to transition from the starters to the bench, which, again, is kind of understandable. I think they've got a lot to figure out. I'm not ready to say this is like, the core issue yet of the season. You know what I mean? Because it is
Yeah.
just 5 games, and I think they will, but there's not one problem, which kind of makes it unfortunate for us to analyze it and figure it out. You know what I mean?
I feel like there's a lot of problems, and I'm glad you mentioned Duncan Robinson because I felt like we'll just kind of take Orlando for an example. At the first quarter, he was so hesitant to shoot the basketball, where he would just pass the ball back out to Cade, and then like the second half, he's shooting, he's not hesitant. And I've seen multiple possessions where Duncan Robinson is just not filling the lane correctly. Him and Asar, I think, miscommunicate a lot and just like pick and roll actions with Kate Cunningham. And to your point, they're trying to get familiar with each other. Obviously, this isn't Tim Hardaway. It's not Malik Beasley or Dennis Schroeder. These are all brand new guys learning the system. And I kind of like, just to be positive with fans, like if you look back last year around this time, the Pistons started off games very, very slow. They didn't really play their best basketball until like January, February, March, where they started getting more confident. They were coming out of the gate strong. I hope it doesn't take that long for them to kind of wake up and have a good, first quarter, come out the gate strong. I know JB said they're all, getting familiar with each other. And he's just like, the shots aren't bad. They're just not going in. He's like, over time, these guys will get more familiar. The new guys like Duncan, Javante, and others will get more familiar with the system. But I think it's just miscommunication in half court sets. And to your point, like the Cavs game lives rent free in my head. I mean, missing 19 straight shots and then your transition defense is just a nightmare and you can't keep pace with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Hopefully we don't have a game like that tonight where we're missing 19 straight shots.
Yeah, for real. That game was really, it was so bad. And the worst part of it too was they were playing pretty solid defense for like a quarter and a half. And then, like you said, it just really spiraled out of control. It's interesting when we're talking about Duncan Robinson, because I also think the difference between him and a Tim Hardaway Jr., who 1-for-1, that's who he's replacing in the starting lineup right now. They're different types of shooters. This has gotten brought up quite a bit. It got brought up on the Pistons Pulse. Blake and I have talked about it as well. I've seen it out on like Twitter, on other podcasts. He's just not really a movement shooter guy. Duncan Robinson's more likely to take a curl screen and put the ball on the deck and drive to the rim than he is to pop the shot, right? He doesn't love the shooting when his feet aren't necessarily set. And I think that honestly, like, it's had a couple of domino effects for the rest of the offense. How many times have we seen last year they open up a game with Tim Hardaway Jr. getting a little elevator screen out of the corner, right? And then hitting a 3-point shot. Their go-to baseline out of bounds play last season was to have Tim Hardaway Jr. at the free throw line, loop over 2 screens on the 3-point line, and then hit a corner 3 on the strong side with the ball. Like, they can't do that stuff anymore. That's a whole section of the playbook that's basically gone when you've made this switch here from THJ to Duncan Robinson. And that's not to say that Duncan Robinson's a worse shooter. He's definitely a better shooter than Tim Hardaway Jr., but you got to get him the ball in different spots. And I do think we've seen Cade actually struggle with that a little bit. Like, there are times when he drives and he's looking for a kick out, and it's almost like he's thinking like, all right, where do I need to get this ball? How do I need to get it to Robinson? Or if he's, is he really in the best position to take the shot right now? Do I need to get it to someone else? Like, it seems like even he is a little bit of a step slow, which for a player his high IQ and feel on the basketball court, that has to be kind of a chemistry type thing. So, and if you're looking for positives, I genuinely believe that Cade figured that out there in that Magic game. They start off slow again, but all of a sudden, what do you start seeing? He's reading the defense perfectly. If they're sending extra help, he's getting the ball to the open space. If they're not sending extra help, he's ISOing a guy, not even calling for the screen, and just unstoppable. He hit Duncan on I don't know how many kickouts there in the second half. Like, that's part of why he looks so confident shooting the ball. He was getting the ball in the spots he wants it as a shooter. So I think this is just going to be kind of a natural progression in that way. I don't know if that's the cure-all for the the slow starts. Like, if we start getting Cade and Robinson on the same page, I think it'll help. Is that the only thing that'll fix it? I don't know. Maybe not. But it wouldn't hurt, right? And I do think that we're going to see that now.
Yeah, I think there are key differences if you're just comparing a 1-to-1 of a THJ and a Duncan Robinson. Duncan, to me, when I'm watching, if like the screen isn't like enough for him where he feels confident of shooting the basketball, then he's not going to shoot it. He'll just kick it back out to whatever ball handlers at the top of the key. Where Tim would take a low percentage shot regardless if it's, a good shot selection, didn't care if there was a hand in his face. Same with like Malik Beasley. Duncan to me is very like fundamentally sound where he's really not going to take a 3-point shot or take a jump shot if he doesn't feel comfortable taking it. And I think that's where a lot of the fans kind of have, I don't know, and when they're watching like a Simone Fontecchio who's lighting it up with the Miami Heat right now, and they're watching Tim Hardaway Jr., who has one of the, I think I read a stat earlier yesterday. He's got like one of the highest like offensive ratings right now in Denver. A lot of our guys outside of Dennis Schroeder, because he's actually struggling a lot, are doing well. And I think fans kind of like, man, like can't believe we let those guys go. But it's different. He's a different type of player. I'm glad you did say that. It is an adjustment period, I think, for Cade. I even saw Cade try to throw a lob to Isaiah Stewart that if that was Duren, it probably would have been a dunk. But for Stu doesn't have the ups that Duren is. I think it's just a learning process for Cade to get familiar with each and one of his guys, every one of his guys, and kind of understand like where they like the ball, how to play with them, because everyone on this roster is different. You can't just say, oh, like Malik liked the ball right there. Duncan could probably shoot the same ball.
Yeah. And like, difference not bad, right?
Yeah.
Like you bring it up with Duncan there. There's a way to leverage that and have it look like some really honestly pretty basketball, right? I mean, how many times last season did it seem like the ball kind of just stuck around a little bit? Now you've got a guy that's presumably going to get major minutes here in Duncan Robinson. And if the shot's not right for him, whatever he's feeling, he's got the confidence in himself to just move it or put the ball on the floor and try to make something happen for someone else. Like that's a good thing. Steve Kerr would love that, right? Pop would love that if we're looking at the Spurs back in the day. It's just a different style of play. So, everyone else has to adjust to it too. If Asar Thompson gets the ball on a kick from Duncan Robinson off a curl, like you have to attack. And maybe you start looking more like OKC's offense, right? Where it's drive and kick, instead of more of what we got from the Pistons last season, which is a lot of heavy ball screens and these curl screens for the shooters, because that was the players that they had. And, JB's got to take a moment to figure that out too. He doesn't really know what he's got in all of these guys either, other than, they're generally playing pretty well individually. I think, we could kind of nitpick some of the percentages, especially with Cade, but for the most part, like in a vacuum, I don't think anyone's looked terrible or bad or anything. It's just kind of how we get the pieces to fit together. And that's what 82 games are for. We're only 5 in.
Yeah. I mean, we're 3-2. I mean, we were 0-5 last year at this point. I know we kind of touched on that before we went live on this podcast. So, I mean, there's progression in itself. Like this wasn't a 500 basketball team until December last season. Like you're already a 500 basketball club, and it's November 1st. So that's progress in itself, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And I do, just to like put a bow on it, I do think the slow starts are going to go away. It wasn't really a problem for them last year. There's no real reason that it should continue to be a problem this year. Like 5 games isn't enough to do anything crazy. Like no one should think we're going and needing to change the starting lineup or anything like that. I think it's just as simple as guys figuring out how to play with one another. And, once you get that chemistry ball rolling, then the spacing's not as big of an issue because Asar knows where he needs to go, right, in order to counteract that. Now you know that you can't just kick it to Duncan on a curl and he's going to put the shot up. Okay, so what do we have to do instead, right? Like if Cade's getting double teamed, he knows where he needs to go. I think some of this is just going to sort itself out, and hopefully pretty quickly here. I'm optimistic here against the Mavs this evening, since we're recording before that game. And let me just say, late start. I'm not looking forward to that. I'm going to be tired, man. You don't like waking up? I don't like staying up. I'm going to be tired.
I'm not looking forward to the post-game podcast we're doing later tonight. So that's probably like 1 a.m., 2 a.m.
Oh, my God. I do not envy you.
Depends on the foul calls. I mean, no 50 fouls tonight, please. For the love of God, man.
Yeah, if there's another Houston game, I mean, it's a Texas team. Who knows, right? Maybe we get another one of those. We all might be up till 1 a.
Hey man, it's kind of funny because I was looking down the last Mexico City game. Do you remember kind of like the storyline, kind of the going off topic, the last time the Pistons played in Mexico
Yeah,
City against the Mavs? Do you remember the storyline with the Andre Drummond, Blake Griffin teams?
I remember the avocado giving him some Drummond some food poisoning. But I was actually just talking to my wife about this the other day. I saw they were playing in Mexico City this early, and like somehow that had slipped by my radar. And the first thought I had was, what was it? Like a 21-year-old Luka Doncic giving the welcome speech to
Yeah.
all of these fans in Spanish because he's from Spain, and he hands the mic over to Blake Griffin, who just says, "Hola Mexico," and then like continues on. And that's the only I don't remember how that game went. I couldn't tell you if they won it, they lost it, who played well, who played poorly. But for whatever reason, Hola Mexico just lives rent free in my head. It was too funny.
Between the avocado game and Andre Drummond, like having to wear goggles because he was deathly allergic to avocados and he had a hard time seeing, like his eyes were all puffy and inflamed. And then Luca kind of doing that to Blake. I kind of remember that game. Remember, it was kind of back and forth, and I believe the Mavs ended up winning. It's kind of funny that we're actually playing the Mavericks again in Mexico City years
Yeah, I
later.
guess
But
those fans just were clamoring for another Dallas Detroit matchup for 6 years. They finally got their wish.
I guess, I mean, we got international fans coming from Korea, like just loving it. Shout to
Yeah,
Tom. Like
yeah, shout out Tom. That was so fun to watch on Twitter.
he probably had the most eventful week I've ever seen anyone visit Detroit in my lifetime.
It's so
Korea.
fun when the city and the teams are rolling out the red carpet for the international guys. Like we saw it with Jack too, and
Mhm.
hopefully everyone knows that's my guy. So it's just so fun. I love seeing the welcome mat getting rolled out like that for our big international fans, which is, I don't know, it's just so cool. It's fun. I love it.
I do want to answer a question, Ben. This isn't really a home game; it's a neutral game, so it's not really a home or an away game. That's what it says on the schedule. So no
It
one's really
does
home.
technically count as a home game for Detroit. So unfortunately, Detroit has one less home game this season. But
Hmm.
it's cool. Some team's going to have to get a disadvantage, and you get the opportunity to play in Mexico City. It's just kind of the price you pay for these neutral site games. But it's cool. It's a good show for the league. And if you have 40 home games instead of 41, yeah, whatever. It's not a big deal.
Yeah, I know. I know these owners have to bid for these games too. So Tom Gore's put a bid in to go to Mexico City. I
Yeah.
mean, the Pistons have played in Paris. I saw that the Grizzlies have to play in Germany and they have to play in London this year.
Wow.
Them in
Oh, that's
Orlando,
interesting.
yeah, them in Orlando have to play in London and Berlin, which I was just like, wow, man, like we might get an international NBA team before we know it.
I don't know. I mean, the travel's getting easier, right? We're seeing it with the NFL too. Didn't the Vikings play like back-to-back international games? They just stayed in London for 2 weeks. Like, that's wild to me. That's
That
wild.
that's crazy to me. It's honestly really crazy. But hey, man, like I think it's cool. I saw the media swarm everybody, which I mean, like the picture with Kate that I saw
Yeah.
online, I was like, bro, there's got to be 200 reporters just trying to talk to this guy right now. So I mean, maybe they'll bring a NBA team to Mexico City, maybe in an expansion. You never know.
I'm sure Silver would think about it at this point, right? So it's
Yeah,
cool. And then just with the last thing with the home game thing too is like, the Pistons they're not contenders enough to have that slim of a margin, and they're not bad enough where that margin would really matter either. They're nice in the meaty middle ground where who cares? It's fun. We'll just enjoy it. It's cool.
yeah, it's not like a Lakers where like they get like every nationally televised game. Like get like 30, 40 a year. I think
Yeah.
fans will they'll be fine with it. I think they're just pissed off that they have to pay for another streaming subscription that I've
Which
seen. They're
one's
like
this game on?
Peacock.
Peacock? Okay.
Yeah, I mean
All right.
$10. That's $10, but if you got
Yeah,
Walmart Plus,
no
you get
big
it.
deal.
You get it free. But hey,
Well, there you go. There's the steal. That's how you do it.
yeah. Or I mean, if you guys can find those, pirated sites, I'm not going
Oh,
to
we
name
would
them.
never recommend that, Anthony.
I
Never on
no,
this official platform.
absolutely
Gosh,
not.
that's
Absolutely not.
crazy.
I know you guys should pay
Crazy.
that. You guys should pay that $10.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And streaming on like the East Coast or something. I don't know. It's crazy. There's no reason for that, man.
Hey, it's a pirate life over here sometimes when you get desperate.
Yo ho.
So I wanted to transition into the next topic, a little bit more positive, lighthearted conversation. Which players impressed you so far this season?
I don't know if I can just pick one. All right. Well, so on the little graphic here, you've got Ron Holland, Cade Cunningham, Asar Thompson. I would pull Cade from that graphic and I would put in Isaiah Stewart, but
Okay.
those would be the three guys for me. Like Ron Holland has been so fun to watch. It's a more organized chaos than what it was last year, which is really great. I think the shot's coming along as well. And he's got so much room to be even more aggressive offensively. The sky's the limit with Ron Holland right now. And what my expectations were coming into the season, he's already exceeded them. So I've been super excited by Ron. I've loved, Sar's going to get all the attention for the ball handling and the playmaking stuff he's been doing, but I have absolutely loved the way that he's crashing the glass. He's at 7.5 rebounds so far this season. And man, if you could get that out of him consistently, if he can be the second best rebounder on this team, that opens up so much. Think of all the grab and go opportunities with a guy that athletic getting the rebounds the way he's been early on this season. And then I can't talk enough about Isaiah Stewart. The most recent Pindown episode, man, we were talking about, I forget who. It might have been, I think we were talking about Ron Holland, and then I just accidentally segued into giving Isaiah Stewart even more praise. Like I can't stop talking about what we've seen out of Stu so far this season. He's averaging, if I remember correctly, he's averaging more blocks than turnovers. Like the guy's just been unbelievable. The shots going in, he's been efficient from the floor. He's still a menace defensively. If I could play that guy 40 minutes a night right now, I could. This is the best we've ever seen out of Isaiah Stewart, and I will just yell on top of the soapbox until someone pushes me off, because I don't care how. He's only at 21 minutes per game so far this season. I don't care how that goes up. I'm not picky. You could play him more at the 4. Like I've pushed back against that in the past. I don't care anymore. That guy needs more minutes. I need more Isaiah Stewart on the court for the Pistons.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of different players that you could pick. I know last time we talked, I was really impressed with Ron Allen in the summer league, and I thought it was something that he could transition into the regular season. Last game, he hit a couple of corner threes, which I was really happy for. And him and Stu, to me, are just the ultimate energy guys off the bench. And like, it wouldn't surprise me. Like if Ron keeps progressing, Stu is just such a great player on this basketball team. And I'm with you, man. Like I see JB leading on Stu so much, and it gets to the point, it's just like, yeah, he's only playing 20 minutes a game, but like sometimes when Duran hasn't been focused so far this season, especially like the Cleveland game, like Stu is out there for a majority of the game just for the rim protection, and he's shooting more, which I'm happy with. He's shooting the basketball more from the outside. There was a 2010 game this year where everyone's like, oh, where was that guy last year? So I've been really just impressed with him. A player on this graphic I didn't put was Javonte Green, just because he's had impact, especially the last game, 3 out of 4 from 3. Pretty good defense, another energy guy. Like him and Ron out there together, I think can just really cause havoc in the half-court defense.
Yeah, I've the most fun I have had watching Pistons basketball this season, outside of Cade Cunningham just absolutely taking over and beating the Magic on his own.
Oh, yeah.
Because, I don't know, what are we, 25 minutes into the show? I think that's the first real mention of Cade Cunningham. So that's just the kind of guy that Cade is now, right? Like you just take it for granted. But outside of that, the most fun I've really had are the few minutes we've gotten where it's Ron, Asar, and Stu.
Yeah.
It's just been so fun. And I got to say, too, it's getting to the point with Isaiah Stewart. This is so far and away the best basketball we have seen out of him from his career. It's not even really fair to do the Stu to Duren comparison right now, because I don't think Duren has looked any worse in any way than what he did down the stretch last season. I think he's been the guy that we've known him to be as an impactful rebounder, lob threat, and he can hunt for some blocks, and sometimes he can be disruptive on defense, which is great. So like the improvements he made last year, honestly, I think they've translated over. I think they've been consistent. I've been impressed with what we've seen out of him. But Isaiah Stewart is playing at such an elevated level from what we've seen out of him in the past, even with Duren having like pretty good nights outside of the foul trouble. When Stu comes in, it's a different beast. Like it's a totally different animal. And that says more about the level that he has gotten to, more so than the level that Duren's not reaching, if that makes sense. Like right now, you've got 48 minutes of really high quality center play. That's such a luxury for this team.
Yeah, I mean, someone had mentioned like in a post-game podcast, they're like, is Isaiah Stewart like Al Horford with better rim protection? And I was like, well, the passing,
Yeah.
I mean, the passing is something that I think he does need to work on, because Al's actually a pretty good passer out of dribble handoffs. But everything else, I mean, you're getting the 3-point shooting, you're getting the energy, you're getting the communication, you're getting the leadership. He's just such a great player, and I can understand why JB has such a hard time not playing him more, just because of the energy and the effort. But I just worry with the long NBA season, because he plays so damn hard. Like I'm just hoping for a healthy season for him. Because if we lost him due to like a knee inflammation or whatever, like you could just tell. Like I love Paul Reed, but he's another one that like he's an intriguing center, different type of center. Like all of our centers bring something different, and they're not the same, which I think is actually kind of like a blessing in disguise, because they're all different types of centers.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and Paul Reed's been fun to watch too when he comes in. I'm a big fan of Paul Reed, and I also love it when he becomes B-ball Paul at the end of blowout games. That's just the most. I love it so much. But yeah, man, like I think that the shooting's gonna help a little bit with the longevity with Stu. I mean, he's still banging around a lot, obviously, but he's not doing it as much, right? He's spacing out a little bit more, so I think that could be helpful there too. But no, I think that's fair, right? He's had some injury issues in the past. I think every year outside of his rookie year, right? He's been kind of in and out of the lineup. But I don't know, he's playing so well, it's almost forcing your hand. Like they may just need to even split that center rotation and still have Stu shift down to the 4. Like that guy, if the 5 games we've seen out of him are consistent, and like we get to game 15 or 20, when you start looking at, okay, maybe we make some rotation pattern changes, like Stu might need to get up to 28 minutes a night somehow, some way. Now, I'm not saying start him. Like I absolutely do not want to have that conversation at all. That's not the point here. But like, I don't care if you're splitting it like 24 at the center spot, and then you got 4 minutes with him next to Duren for a stretch. Like A-okay with me. He's just been so good. And so someone in the comments, NFC 2004, Asar and Ron play better with Stu at the 5 hitting threes. Yeah, no, that's very accurate too. I think you've noticed when those 3 are out there, the spacing is just a little bit better. Ron's actually shooting, last I checked, I think he's shooting a better percentage, or as well as Tobias Harris is from 3 right now. If you could double check me on that, that'd be great. So I'm not lying to everybody, but it's at least comparable in the worst case. So there's not much of a step off in that. And then you've just got a little bit more from Stewart spacing out the floor. Again, to the difference when Stu comes in, subbing in at the 5, I do think that the offense has looked a little bit better. It's just a little bit more free flowing, less congested. That's just because Stewart can shoot it a little bit. That's nothing else. So whether that's worth expanding on more in this case, I don't know. It comes at the trade-off of the lob threat. You brought that up already, and that's an important aspect too. So yeah, I love it. I'm loving those 3 guys. I'm loving how they're playing together. I'm loving how Asar is just really embracing that 9 to 5 thing that he came up with. Like, run with it, man. And if you could put those two next to Isaiah Stewart, the reason it's so fun defensively is you got Ron and Asar kind of wreaking havoc out there on the perimeter. Stu gets to roam a little bit. He doesn't
Yeah.
have to just sit in the background, right, and let everything come to him. He can be a little bit more aggressive. And a guy that's that good at getting steals and blocks, now you're asking him to go find them himself too. Ooh, oh, it's fun. It's fun to watch.
So I did look up the 3-point percentage. So Ron is at 33% and Tobias is at 34%. So I mean,
Oh, all right. I was right there.
pretty
Different
close. I mean,
volume, obviously.
30 if Ron finishes the season as a 33% 3-point shooter, that's just a win in itself. Like that's a win in itself to me. Because like
no question.
Shot, like sub 20s, going up over 10%, which I've always said that shot looks really good. Like we talked about it during the summer when he shot 40% from 3 in the summer league. Once he sees one in, his confidence goes up because that last game he hit a couple. And if he becomes more of a reliable 3-point shooter in the corners, I think that opens up so much, not only for the whole team, but people mentioned like, Stu out there. Stu's shooting a pretty good clip from 3 as well. So, I mean, the more floor spacers you have on this team, I think it's really exciting.
Yeah, and with Ron and specifically, like when he gets that 3 going and he gets a little bit of that confidence flowing, like you mentioned, like he's really tough to stay in front of. I think I don't know, maybe bag's not the word I'm looking for, but he's just got a little wiggle to him, right, with the ball in his hands that I don't think defenders right now really expect out of him. So he catches guys off guard quite a bit. And so when you start to have to close out Ron Holland pretty hard because he's hitting the threes now like he was against Orlando, and then that opens up the dribble drive game even more. He gets to then flash a little bit as a passer, even like we saw that. And the sky's really the limit with him offensively. I think if you were looking for a sign that he's going to elevate himself into that, maybe he's another star player kind of track of development rather than just maybe he's a really good starter track of development. Like you couldn't be more excited. This is exactly what you would have wanted to see.
Especially in a second-year player too. I mean, he's just so fearless sometimes. I forget how young he is because it doesn't matter if there's like 3 guys in front of him, he'll still try to make a very tough contested layup or a reverse layup, and they go in at a pretty good clip. But I'm to the point, it's just like, man, like, do you like start to consider like putting him in the starting lineup if the shot starts falling? I mean, we've had those conversations, like him and Asar, like your future, 3-4.
Yeah, and I'll say that I think Tobias Harris has played really well to start the season. I know the points per game aren't there, but I've really liked the way he's been, the impact he's had out on the court, and I almost wonder if does the vet feel the young buck nipping at his heels a little bit, and that's picking up his focus and effort. Like this is a good thing all around, right? If Ron Holland's really going to push Tobias Harris, because that's truthfully the guy that gets moved to the bench, right? So if Tobias is fighting for his spot, and also that just elevates him as a leader and as a scorer, like we saw, he'd taken that head-to-head matchup with Paulo against the Magic on a night too, and Ron's playing. So it's like, I think this all works together really well. But yeah, man, if he's the future and you get to the All-Star break and he's still playing exactly like this, that's the time where you start having those conversations, and they're going to be justified. If he takes a step back, of course, this was a 5-game small sample size and we're all going to look really dumb, but I like to be excited. So I think that's going to be on the table.
Yeah, I think being reactionary is something that we do a lot here on the podcast, which it's either where like you look very smart or you look really stupid and people pull up a clip, because that's happened to me more often than not. Like, look at you.
Oh, you don't have to be reactionary for that to be true. That's just called being on podcasts, Anthony. There's some of the most humble takes I've ever given that look stupid in hindsight. It's just what it is. We're talking into the void, man. Sometimes we will misstep.
Oh, for sure. I know we kind of touched on it a little bit earlier with the Pistons and their slow first quarter starts. Just 5-game sample size. What areas do you think they can improve on so far this season, in your opinion?
I would like to get the shooting up. So it's actually not that far away from where they were last year. Last year, they were taking about 35.5 per game as a team. They're at 36.2%. This year, it's 32.6 on 34.4%. So like they're really not that far away. That's just attempts. That's not makes, right? They're only taking 3 less per game, and it's at 2%, 2 percentage points less in terms of their success rate on it. But I would like to see that get back up. I think that a lot of that is just going to be a product of where does Duncan Robinson want the ball? Where does Cade want the ball on catch and shoots too, by the way? Because right now, when you're looking at that starting lineup, like the floor spacers are Duncan Robinson and Cade Cunningham. And Cade's not looked all that great as a 3-point shooter so far. Obviously, a lot of that's pull-up threes, which you would expect to not have a super high success rate, but he's also missing a good number of catch and shoot stuff, which, you know, that's not him, right? So you figure that's going to kind of go back to normal in a little bit. But like if Asar can figure out where Cade likes the ball on a catch and shoot for a kick out, I think that's going to be helpful for this as well. So shooting's going to be one. This is like a smaller thing, but with the way that teams are defending Cade, I would really love to start seeing Asar Thompson as the roll man or as the handoff guy in DHOs, because that puts the defense in a bit of a bind with what they're throwing Cade's way, because they're obviously blitzing screens and they're blitzing handoffs, but guys are guarding Asar 5 feet off in the paint. You can't really blitz if you're going to do that, right?
Yeah.
And if you blitz, now you're going to kind of leave Asar with a little bit of room. And I would absolutely trust Asar Thompson in a short roll to make the right play, or as a DHO guy to, if he feels his guy go blitz, to just keep the ball, turn the corner and go make a play that way, right? Like he's got all the tools to do that. So I think that's one way that maybe JB can start to counter what we've been seeing defenses throw at Cade. The other thing is Cade really diced up the Magic for 3 quarters without any of that sort of help. So maybe he just kind of figured it out right, and all this doesn't matter. But those would be really the 2 things for me, because it's the shooting, and then it's how do you manipulate the relative lack of spacing that you're seeing out on the floor with that starting lineup, because that's not going to go away if Duncan starts shooting an even higher percentage. That's not going to go away when Jaden Ivey gets back, right? It's going to be a problem. So if we're going to figure that all of these guys that they have on the roster right now are core pieces for the future, they got to figure that out. So I think that these are some of the creative things that you could start to do to try to figure that out. And I'd like to see a little bit more of it.
I know a lot of people in the comment section right now are saying fouls, and that's exactly where I was going to go. Pretty sure they're like top
That's up
3.
league wide. That's up league wide. Yeah. So we had a commenter on DBB bring it up. I don't remember the number exactly off the top of my head, but league averages fouls per game are up 6 or 7. And of course, the Pistons are near the bottom of that. They're following even more. I think they're the 29th team, 28th or 29th in the league right now in fouls per game. So they're up too. But like the entire distribution has shifted to the right. The whistles are really tight, just in general.
Yeah, that's what I kind of wanted to touch on. Like, I don't really think it's the Detroit Pistons are fouling more. I think the officials are blowing their whistle more, and they're not letting the guys play as physical defense as they were last year. And I know JB kind of touched on that in a post game. Pretty sure Koo asked him a question about that, of just the way that, you know, these officials are officiating the game, and it's harder for them to play the physical defense that they were able to play. Now, I don't know if that's a league-wide thing, that they had a meeting of, you know, blowing the whistles more. I don't know if the league didn't like all the fights that they had last year, because I felt like just outside of Pistons games, I saw a lot of altercations, a lot of fights. Maybe the officials are saying, like, we're not going to let you guys play physical, and that's an adjustment period, I think, for not just only the Pistons, but every NBA team. Another area of improvement I'd like to see the Pistons kind of focus on a little bit more is transition defense, because I think it's easy to say, but when they're taking really long contested shots and it's rimming out, it's kind of hard to play good transition defense. But I think a lot of the times when we see teams go on runs, in most cases, it's either the transition defense is really bad or half court defense isn't communicating, and you get backdoor cuts or you get guys just blow by you. I mean, you could see Cade and Asar miscommunicate on switches, but I think defensively is where I would probably like to see more areas of improvement. I know you went more offensive, which I absolutely love, because I think what you said is 100% true. Like, they could definitely get better. Cade could get better with his percentages from three.
Well, honestly, I think all of this is kind of what makes the start exciting and also a little bit frustrating. They are on both ends of the floor. I feel like they're leaving some meat on the bone right now, right? And would they're 10th in the league in defensive points allowed per game. They're a top 10 defense right now, and I'm right there with you. They're fouling a bit too much. They need to get better in transition, especially dead ball transitions. Like the Bulls in particular were able to take a make and run it up on the Pistons. That was a huge issue that whole night. And it's not really gone away. Other teams aren't using it as much, but that is something that I think they need to improve on as well. So like they need to get better. They're still top 10, right? They need to shoot better, but they're still only 2 percentage points away from where they were last year as a league average team. And they just dropped 135 points on Orlando. Like there's a lot of meat left on the bone here, and they're sitting 3-2 in a pretty good spot overall with a lot of room for improvement. That's really what you want to see, right? We're 5 games in. We know that the team's going to change and improve in some ways over the course of an 82 game season. And what we're looking at right now is they're in a good spot, and the ways that they can improve look pretty attainable. So that's exciting.
Yeah, I mean, you actually have real expectations for the first time in a long time. And the fact that we're coming up here saying, like, they're 3-2, but we feel like they can get even better. The fact that they're a top 10 defense, and we're coming up here saying, like, yeah, they need to get better in transition defense. They need to get better in half court sets. Kind of tells you the expectations and the mindset from, yourself and I and other fans that are watching this live, or just Pistons fans in general, thinking that like this could be a maybe top 5 defense if they clean stuff up. We didn't even mention turnovers. I feel like turnovers are a thing that a lot of people focus on, but you can contextualize it with, hey, Cade is their only primary ball handler. Nassar has kind of got into that secondary ball handler role, which I think he's done a pretty good job at it. I feel like he gets better each game with it. But I mean, turnovers are another thing with this team that I think they kind of beat themselves, other than, the team's beating them, because I feel like if they cut the turnovers down, they could be in each and every one of these games.
Asar Thompson deserves a legit shout out for this turnover thing. Here's the per 100 possessions so far through 5 games. Asar Thompson is 10th on the team in turnovers per 100 possessions, only 1.7 turnovers per 100. That is insane for the guy that's handling the ball as often as he is. The only guy that's getting legit, like, regular minutes below that is Duncan Robinson. And we all know he's not really handling the ball all that much. So like when you're looking at the turnover problem, which I agree it's an issue, it almost reminds me of the conversation we were having a couple years ago. We were looking at Cade's turnovers, like, oh, these are a problem. How do we get them down? And the whole conversation ends up shifting justifiably into, okay, well, Cade's the point guard. Cade has the ball in his hands a lot. You'd like to have him average less than 5 turnovers a night, which he is this year, by the way. It's a 4.5, 4.4 just per game this season. So that 0 turnover game against the Magic, that went a long way. Good stuff from Cade. But per 100 possessions, he's actually, of regular rotation guys, second. Jalen Duren is averaging 6.2 turnovers per 100 possessions. Other problem guys, Ron Holland, 4.4 turnovers per 100 possessions. Karis LeVert, 2.5. Isaiah Stewart, for a guy that doesn't have the ball a lot, 2.2, right? And of course, he's actually doubling that. Per 100 possessions, Isaiah Stewart has 4.4 blocks per 100. So he's impressive in that way. Similarly, Ron Holland's steal to turnover ratio per 100 is 1-1, which is also kind of nuts. Regardless, though, even with those positives, those guys have to get it under control. Like it really is a bit reminiscent of a couple of years ago in that way to me, where it's like, yeah, we'd like to see more control out of Cade. I'd like to have him cut off those, he gets blitzed and he kind of makes a lazy pass while falling away because he gave up on it. Like, I'd love to cut those out, but ultimately, like you can't have Duren leading your team in per 100 possession turnovers. That's your center. You can't have that. You can't have Ron Holland in low minutes being 4.5, right? Like those are things you just can't work with on that issue. So that really is what needs to get corralled into me.
I would kind of say with the Duren turnover conversation, they're asking a lot out of him to put the ball on the
He's being like
floor.
a hub. Yeah, I've not expected
Yeah,
that.
I mean, like JD said that they really wanted to feature him, and like he's taken the ball like 15 to 17 feet away from the basket, and they're asking him to create something in isolation, and he's done a pretty good job. I mean, the Houston game, he got to the free throw line over 12 times, made 11 free throws. I think the last game against the Magic, he did a similar thing. So he's getting to the free throw line a lot, and he's making his free throws, which is good to see because he did kind of have like a weird year last year where he wasn't making his free throws a lot. But I think you could you look at his turnover numbers, and it's probably that. I mean, that's something that he wasn't doing in his first couple of years in the league, where they're like, hey, create something in isolation for us because, Cade's getting tripled. He's getting blitzed right now. So maybe it's just a learning curve with him where, he can start to realize to kick it out to maybe a Duncan Robinson or a Ron Holland or a Cade Cunningham when he starts to see 2-3 bodies in the paint and he's trying to create something. And a lot of his, foul calls, a lot of like him just trying to score. I mean, he's getting double, triple teams and just out muscling everybody.
Yeah, like there's been a lot of really fun flashes, I think, with his drives from the top of the key. But there's been flashes. So if we want to be optimistic, there's reason to be optimistic. If you want to be negative, there's reason to be negative too. I mean, he's 1 to 3 assist to turnovers per game. He's averaging 3 turnovers a night in only 22 minutes. Like that's not great. Like I get he's getting to the free throw line a lot, 6.2 attempts. He's hitting them too, which I love, but like he's averaging more turnovers than stocks per game in 22 minutes. Like if you're looking if anyone is of the mindset of, look, you don't want your center unless they're Jokic or Embiid to be doing a lot of ball handling and creating, then this is why, right? You're looking at why you don't want that. If you're of the opinion that he's got this skill and you want to, actually show it, and you've got reason, he's up at almost 15 points a night. And like we just said, 6.2 free throw attempts. Like he's making plays when he gets the ball. So if you want, take the positive side too, you could do that. And you could say, well, look, like he's doing the stuff, he's showing the flashes. So maybe there's reason to have him, that he'll clean this all up. The only thing I'll say is that he's had a negative assist to turnover ratio for his entire career. So, do we expect that to go away or not? I don't know. I'd be a little skeptical. But I did not expect this as much out of Duren. I wonder how much of it's an Ivy thing. They need somebody to make plays happen, and Asar, he can only do so much in those starting lineups. So I almost wonder how much of a necessity is this, because you don't want to give it to Duncan and tell him to go make something happen. I'd rather give it to Duren too. I guess if there's really a trade-off here, like maybe feature Tobias Harris post-ups a little bit more, as if they're not already doing that quite a bit every game. I wonder how much of necessity this really is.
Yeah, the Cleveland game when Isaiah Stewart and Jalen Duren were bringing the ball up the court because we didn't have a secondary ball handler. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, that's the stuff. Wow. That's the stuff to me. Just like, stop. I'm done. I don't need to see it. It's giving me like Andre Drummond flashbacks where Drummond's grabbing and going, and you're just praying to any God that will listen that this will just be a DHO that he's going to dribble into, because Andre Drummond probing the fast break was just a nightmare. And we're seeing this, like, it's Stu too. Do not grab and go. Get that dang ball to a guard. I do not need to see fast break ball handling from the centers on this Pistons team. You're not Jokic. You're not Bam. Like, and even with Bam, I usually I don't love it all the time either. So like, it really is just, you're not Jokic.
Yeah, that Cavs game, like if you guys haven't watched it, they missed Jaden Ivey. They missed Karis LeVert in that game because like you were asking Stu and Duren to be your secondary ball handlers because Asar wasn't feeling good that game. He only played 15 minutes, but maybe that's why the turnovers are up in 5 games. They had 26 turnovers against Cleveland, but it could just be experimentation too with JB, seeing like who could be that number 2 option when Cade is getting blitzed, when he is getting doubled. And I've been kind of impressed with Duren get to the free throw line as much as he's getting to the free throw line, because like I feel like he could get to the free throw line a lot more because he's getting slapped in the head, he's getting elbowed. But I mean, I'm just happy to see that the free throws are kind of back to like where they were during the Monty Williams year. I know I said the forbidden word, but he was shooting free throws at a pretty high clip, and he's shooting free throws pretty well. And it's kind of rare to see a center shoot that well from the free throw line.
Yeah, and I mean, honestly, for the whole team, it's been up pretty well. Like Cade's at 6.6 free throw attempts. That's great. That's huge for him. If he can keep that up. Asar 3.6, Ron Holland 2.6, and only 21 minutes a night. Like Harris too. Harris is getting to the line almost 2.5 times per game. They are getting to the line pretty well as a team, which has been really great to see, especially the way they've been struggling from the field and the 3-point line so far as a team through these 5 games. That's your equalizer, right? If you can get to the line well and make those shots, Sar needs to work on that 60% on the year, but everyone else, you're getting to the line, you're making your shots. It's good. It's a way to get some calm, easy points, which they've really needed.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I think in the first 5 games we do have data. I don't think this is a completed team whatsoever, but I think they are taking steps in the right direction in terms of like where they want to be. Having a top 10 defense within the first 5 games is great because they didn't really have a top 10 defense until Asar came back from blood clots. But I see a lot of areas of improvement, letting the turnovers, get down a little bit. I mean, if you can average like 12 to 13 a game, I think you'll be in a pretty good spot, just the way they like to play fast in transition. I think, Cade shooting better from the outside could definitely open up the offense quite a bit. And just, communication on just the way you need to be spaced. Don't clog the lane. Like I've seen Asar and Durham bump into each other multiple possessions so far this year because they don't know where to be. But overall,
that's
I think
not going to go away.
No,
it's not. On instinct, those guys like to do the same thing. I forget who, might have been Sam Vecini. Someone, I think it was Sam. Someone's been pointing this out for Asar's entire career at this point. If the Pistons get into a scramble situation, those 2 guys flash to the same parts of the court, like on instinct, almost 10 times out of 10. And to stop that, you're going to have to reprogram one of their minds, which I don't think any of us really want to do. They're both good players in their own right. But yeah, man, if you got a loose ball and both Asar and Dern are flashing to the elbow, it's like, yeah, that's going to be one of those things. As long as this is a pairing, you live with it and have to work through it.
I know I shouldn't laugh, but like Asar wasn't looking and he almost like got knocked out, bumping into JB's back. He's like, oh shit. It's like, oh man, you guys got to communicate a little bit more. But yeah, pretty sure it was.
Yeah, that's a brick wall. You don't want to run through that.
Yeah, I mean, some of the screens that are big set, like they get called fouls, like when maybe like 5 times out of 10 they're not really fouls. These guys are just really big, bulky setters and power forwards.
I don't know. They both, Duran and Stu, like to lean quite a bit. I haven't hated a lot of those moving screen calls, but I'll be in the minority for that, so I'll be a villain there. That's fine.
Yeah. I know we're really early on in the NBA season, and this is kind of just a prediction from you. So if we do look at the Eastern Conference right now, it's the Chicago Bulls. Who would have thought? They're 5-0, number 1 seed. You got the Philadelphia 76ers right behind them at the 2nd seed and 4-1. The Bucks are also 4-1 with the 3rd seed. And you got the Miami Heat at 3-2 with the 4th seed. And the Pistons are currently sitting at the 5th seed at 3-2, tied with the Miami Heat. So I wanted to ask you this question. 5 games in, where do you see them finishing in the Eastern Conference? I know it's really early on. Like right now, the Knicks are a play-in team. There's just a lot going on, but where do you think the Pistons could end up finishing?
I kind of like them where they're at. I don't think there's really anything early on in the season to say they're going to really elevate way up above to the top. I also don't think there's anything to say they're going to be like a bad team or a play-in team at this point. They got a wide range. Like I'm not changing my preseason prediction yet. Like I think their range is 7 to 4, depending on how other teams in the East shake out. And, let's talk after 15 games, right? If they're sitting there at, like, I don't know, 10-5, then okay, maybe we need to readjust our expectations. If it's the inverse, okay, now we need to go in the negative way, right? But this early on, like, The Bulls are exciting. They're talented. I really like Josh Giddey. They're not the best team in the Eastern Conference. We've played 5
No.
games. Like with the Sixers, I think they're super talented, but you're really worried about injuries there, right? Embiid's on a minutes restriction right now. Is that ever going to lift off? Is he going to get hurt again? Like I'm not to like, jinx the guy or anything, because as much as I don't personally love watching him play all that much, like he's a superstar in this league. I'd like him to be healthy. I don't want him to be hurt, but
Yeah.
but that's an issue there with the Sixers. I think the Bucks are legit. So, but I thought that before the season started too. So, it's just they need some time to let this all shake out one way or another. And where the Pistons are is kind of where I would have expected them to finish the year at. And I'm just going to stick to my guns on that. What about you?
I think they'll finish anywhere between 4 and 6 if I did have to guess. I mean, if you're looking at 2 teams in the Eastern Conference that were just talked about as title contenders coming out of the East, Cleveland is sitting at the 8 seed at 3-3. They lost to Boston. Boston looks like ever since they played the Pistons, they're starting to figure stuff out because they've had 2 really big wins. And then the Knicks, which I'm not surprised that they're 2-3, given Mike Brown trying to play that 0.5 offense. And I feel like Karl Anthony Towns has really struggled there. Chicago coming out the gate 5-0 is surprising, but as I told myself, this is such Chicago Bulls behavior. I said, watch this be the year that they decide, let's make the playoffs. Let's try to be, a top 6 seed. When this draft class, I'm telling you, they need a AJ Debinsa. They need a Cameron Boozer. Like they need more talent. The fact that they're starting off the gate 5-0, it's such a Chicago Bulls thing to do.
I mean, I don't know. They do have a lot of young talent. I got to give the Bulls a little bit of credit. Josh Giddey's a real piece to build around. I think Kobe White might be better off as a 6 man, but we haven't seen him yet this year. And if he can do what he did down the stretch last season, like there's your backcourt of the future already. They've got flexibility there too. I know Giddey just got an extension, but it's not like they maxed him out. So they've got some cap to play with. You've still got an asset there in Vooch, who's playing out of his mind here through these 5 games. I don't even know if you really want to look at trading him, but if you do, someone at this point is going to give up a good chunk of goods to go and get him. I think, Pat Williams is still interesting. They got Matas. That's an interesting prospect too. There's enough in Chicago where you can actually see some pathways forwards for them. I think if you like last year at the deadline, I was giving them such crap because it just made no sense. But now looking at it, they were right. I was wrong. Giddey's really taking a step. White's really taking a step. They've got some interesting young pieces, and they've still got some vets that they could flip at a deadline and get some more young pieces back for as well if they really want to. Like I still think Pat Williams is an asset. Someone would probably take a flyer on him, and he's not been awful to start this year. Like they've got some maneuverability. I think they're going to be okay. I don't everyone could use a Cam Boozer, but I think the Bulls are going to be all right.
I think they'll come back down to the reality because if you kind of look at just like
yes,
they're
I agree with that.
They're not all going to shoot like 40-50% from 3. I think they're just hitting their shots right now.
Yes.
I think they'll come back down to the reality. I did not see them coming out the gate is 5-0. I don't think they finished or started off that strong, probably over like the last 6 years or so. But just kind of looking at the Eastern Conference, I think it's wide open. Like a team like the Hawks that a lot of people kind of they were like media darlings this offseason. I don't know if you saw the Hawks.
Oh, me too. Yeah, I was a big fan of what they did.
Yeah, I was too. But I mean, like Kristaps Porzingis is already starting to have a little bit of not playing. He's kind of been like game time decisions. So it'll be interesting to see.
Magic are getting some of those questions as well, right? They were supposed to be a top seed, and they've struggled a little bit. Ultimately, it's talent kind of shakes out. So at this point, like, is Cleveland going to be the 8th seed? No, like
probably not. No.
They are by roster the best team in the East. So it'll be interesting to see how this all shakes out.
Yeah, we're in November. Like I'd be interested to watch this back like in January to see where everyone's at, like to see who's a top seed, and it's just kind of crazy, kind of just projecting that far out. But hey, it's a fun podcast topic, I think.
Yeah, I love it. And, hopefully we look really dumb. We just said the Pistons are probably like 4-6, 4-7. Maybe they're number 2, right? By the
Yeah.
time we get to the All-Star break or something. Like, let's be wrong in a positive way. Why do we have to be wrong in a negative way? Let's just, fingers crossed for that one. I'd love to be wrong. I'd love to say they're going to be the 5th seed and then they close out at the 2nd. Like, let's go. I can't wait for that.
Yeah, I mean they're still finding ways to win games without Jaden Ivey. I mean, I think they did it last year, they're doing it again this year. So I mean, he's set to get reevaluated in around 2.5 weeks or so. I think 2 weeks will be the start of next week. So fingers crossed it is good news, and maybe you could get him in late November, possibly to come back. You never know. Never
The
know.
thing NBA's always cracked me up with this. Like I assume a lot of our listeners watch football too. Like football, a guy gets hurt. You don't get the reevaluation window for the doctor. Like when is a doctor going to take a look on this progress? You get all right, we think he'll be back in like 5 weeks. With the NBA, it's all right, here's his injury. Here's when we're going to have a doctor take a look again and then decide how much longer the guy needs, instead of just like, yeah, we think this is going to be month and a half, 2 months. Like that's about the timeline that we think. Jaden Ivey is most likely a Christmas present for Pistons
Yeah.
fans. But because, at the start of the season, it's a 3-week evaluation window. Then even me for a second, I was looking at it going, oh, 3 weeks. How long is that? And then you have to catch yourself like, wait, no, he just got like a little procedure done on his knee. And the doctor's going to take a look to see if he needs another one in 3 weeks. Like that's what that check-in is. It's not, oh, are you ready to go and play some basketball again? So it is endlessly annoying to me the way that the NBA reports on injuries.
I think it's honestly annoying. And I get from the Pistons perspective and their medical staff sometimes. Like I remember this player's still on the roster, he doesn't get any clock. I remember them telling Pistons fans, yeah, Bobby's just, day to day, his leg hurts, his calf hurts. And then it turns into like this whole thing where he had a calf contusion, and then like calf contusions can turn into torn Achilles. So they're being extremely careful there with him. So it's just, I get that the Pistons public relation department doesn't want to, fire the alarm every time someone gets like a bruise or anything like that, but the transparency from he's day to day, oh, he's gonna be out until like December type of thing. It's just it's a wild thing sometimes.
It's a league-wide thing. It's not just
Yeah.
Detroit. I mean, it really is just a product of the way that the NBA reports on its injuries. If you had the expectation as the health reporting and as a PR team for the team, if all right, we got a guy hurt, how long do we think he's out for? Instead of when is he reasonably able to get back to basketball activities? Because that's the difference, right? Bobby Klippman, he always got a bruise on his calf, and we're being careful with it. So day to day, he could get back to practice whenever, right?
Yeah.
But how long do you think he's out? I'm sure that answer would have been like probably 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that, right? It would have been a little even more cautious because of what they were trying to do. It's league wide. It's not just Detroit, but if obviously we're Pistons fans, so we only see the Detroit version of it.
Yeah, we don't see like it's bad like when a reporter asks a coach about a player and he's like, yeah, I don't know, I haven't talked to our doctors yet. He's like, yeah, he's like, I don't even know, man. Like I gotta talk to him. So wishing Ivy well. Maybe it will be a Christmas present. Someone said it would be really poetic if he came back January 1st, because that would be like the
year that'd be crazy
that he got injured. Hopefully he's not out until January 1st. Hopefully maybe it is like around like late November, early December that we do see him.
Yeah.
I did kind of want to get your opinion. Now, there were no contract extensions for either Jalen Duren or Jaden Ivey. Do you think this was the right approach for the Detroit Pistons? And did you have any concerns with them not giving them contract extensions?
I did not. I think that this was the right approach. With Ivy, you've got the health side of things. I think if he played out the rest of last season the way he had started to, like if you remember December into January, he was really starting to, I think, figure it out. I don't think he was looking like the number 2 scorer long term or anything like that, but it seemed like he was figuring out how to fit well next to Cade Cunningham. I thought he had taken a step forward as a defender as well over that stretch. And of course, the 3-point shot was coming along too. So like that pairing started to look really good. And then of course he goes down with an injury. And two things would be true here, right? If he plays out the rest of last season, I think you've got more information. So you're probably comfortable giving him a contract extension. But on top of that, I don't think that his camp would be, pushing for max money or anything. If down the stretch of the season, when he's playing really well, you're looking at a guy putting up like 16, 5 and 5, right? Which is loosely what he was doing when he was playing great over that December stretch. So, it kind of shifts his price tag a little bit, which also would probably have made it a little bit more palatable when he's got so much unknown. Like I get not wanting to commit a ton of the money. So I think it was the right call for that one on Ivy. And then with JD, it's just going to perpetually be the question of how much are you willing to pay a center that, for all of the positives, just in terms of an archetype of player, is generally not a guy that gets a lot of cash. Like if we abstract here, if we remove ourselves from the tie of who the player is and that we drafted him and we really want him to succeed here in Detroit, which is all true. You're looking at a guy who is, in theory, a really, really great lob threat, pick and roll big, a really great rebounder, not a shooter, not a great defender, even with the blocks that he's been getting right nowadays. And I think he's really improved with that as a rim protector. So I've been happy with that improvement. You compare it to Isaiah Stewart, who's a good rim protector, not just a less bad rim protector, right? And there's a big difference between those two. So those are the limitations, right, that you're looking at with Duren. Of course, he's really young. So there's theoretically a premium to be paid there, but like how much here's the tough question, and I'll just throw this out and then let you respond and we can keep going. How much more than Isaiah Stewart do you want to pay a player that through every single game of their career so far has frankly not been as good as Isaiah Stewart has been for Detroit? I get the potential. I love the potential. I genuinely, I've been really pumped with what we've seen down the stretch last year out of Duren and then even to the start of this season. I think he's looked really good. Isaiah Stewart's been better and he's going to get paid a lot less if you extend the guy. So that's just going to be a hurdle.
I was thinking about this because I was like, well, Stu's making $15 million a year right now. Duren's camp said they wanted north of $30 million a year. Now I get.
Let's also quickly grant that Stu is a discount. Like that is a steal of a contract right now. So we'll put that out there too. So it's not a perfect comparison. Just to continue giving props where they're due.
I mean, Stu's basically mid-level exception at this point for one of the best shot blockers in the NBA, which I think you got to your point, you get a big mention. Duren's camp wanted north of $30 million. Now, when you look at centers in that market, like you look at an Isaiah Hartenstein, that's kind of similar. You look at a Bam Adebayo, you look at a Nick Claxton. I think Duren offensively, like how much is he benefiting from playing with Cade Cunningham with the lobs? Like
a lot.
If Cade's not if Cade's not really throwing him lobs, what does his numbers look like? He has been putting the ball on the floor quite a bit more this season and getting to the free throw line. So he is scoring, but I think my biggest question is if you do want $30 million, you're going to have to play much more sound defensively. You can't have lapses where you're just taking plays off. You can't just mentally check out of games. And I think that's something that we saw a lot last year where he just wasn't focused game in and game out. But I mean, to kind of answer your question, how much more would I pay him versus Isaiah Stewart? My baseline for him was like around 24 to like 26 million. Like that's it. I think that's a fair price. I think the way the salary cap's going to go up and the contract would age pretty gracefully. But once you start getting into $30 million conversations, I think that's where I kind of have some pushback. It's just like, if you want that type of money, you're going to have to show it on both ends of the court, just not one side.
Yeah, and like I think you bring up a good point with the lobs for him offensively. the counter to that is, of course, that's why you want a guy like
Yeah.
JD to pair with Cade, right? Because Cade can make that player look really good. Shoot, Anthony, I've seen it before. I've seen Cade make James Wiseman look like a competent starter for a stretch when Duren was hurt because he just ran the floor hard and was a big lob threat. Like this, Cade can do that with guys. That's one of the big advantages of a player like him. And then Duren gets to add on top of that with some of the passing and short roll stuff that he's gotten to do as well. So like he's legitimately an offensive weapon from that point of view when you're pairing him like with a point guard like Cade Cunningham. But I think overall this is a theoretical problem, right? This is how do you want to build your team around a player like Cade Cunningham? And if we're going to throw money at Asar Thompson and maybe later on Ron Holland too, depending on how that goes, is this the type of center that you want along those three? Which I think is an open question that we don't have an answer to yet as well. So, to just not even to put a dollar amount on it, the bigger reason I think that the right move here was not to do an extension was just to try to figure that out, right? Can you make Cade, Asar, and Duren really work? Like, and hear me when I'm saying really work, not just be something that we can overcome offensively. It needs to be a net positive. There needs to be some way that those three guys are playing off one another that is good for the offense, not as bad as it could be. It was a difficulty we overcame, right? Because that's kind of like, winning a boxing match with your hand tied behind your back. Great, you did it. You overcame the hurdle. That's impressive. But like, untie the hand. It'd be great. It'd be even better, right? That's kind of the range that you want to find out if we're in there with Duren and with those other two guys. So, yeah, I mean, from a literal money, I'm with you. I don't think 30 is the right way to go. Rock Howard bringing up elite rebounder. Yes, that's a huge asset for him. It's just, how do we want to puzzle out this roster to be a contender? And that's a tough question. So I like that we're waiting it out.
I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch Trajan Langdon on the Zach Lowe show last week.
I did not.
Okay, so if you definitely should, because he had him on had him on for over 45 minutes. I want to read you a quote he said about these extensions. So this is what he said. I would say discussions kept being had. Let's put it that way. But I think we both felt, okay, let's just revisit it. Let's not make this thing too contentious. I think the talks were good. They were professional. I think JD and I were all in a good place heading into the season. The one thing I took with that quote was discussions kept being had. They kept coming back to the front office trying to work out a deal. And then you get the Mark Stein report saying that Duren's camp wanted to get paid like what a top center in the NBA, which I think agents always do that. They always aim high. And if you kind of meet them in the middle, maybe they do decide to take a deal there. But I mean, this isn't me saying that Duren isn't worth $30 million. Like if he plays up to par as a $30 million center, then I think that's a win for the Pistons. But Trajan kept mentioning in that episode saying like, I obviously want to keep building a team that can be competitive on the floor, and also like adding pieces in terms of flexibility and cap space wise is like, if we all max these guys out and, we're a first round exit, then that doesn't really give us a whole lot of flexibility of building a team long term. So he's all about long term longevity. And I don't really blame the organization for not wanting to extend, either of these guys. Obviously, Jaden Ivey's a whole different conversation. But with Duren, I think he's been relatively more healthy than Jaden Ivey. But I think if he wants that type of money, he just has to go out there and show that he's worth it.
Yeah, and like look with the Ivy thing too. Like I am on record of being a big Jaden Ivey fan. I really like his game, but there are reasonable questions to be asked with pairing him next to Cade. Is he a good enough defender to kind of take that pressure off of Cade Cunningham? I think that's fair, right? Is he a good enough shooter? We saw 40% last season, but only in 30 some games. Is that the real Jaden Ivey? Right? We don't know. We don't know that for sure. So there's plenty of questions with both of these guys. And yeah, it really is just all in theory, how do you really want this thing to get built out? Because as much as someone brought it up in the chat, it was Rock Howard again with minimizing Duran's impact. Like, yeah, I don't want to do that either, because the alternative position to extending Duran that sometimes you see from people taking it a little bit too far online would be, well, you could get a lob threat big for super cheap anywhere. And okay, well, I really like Keita in Boston. I think he's a really fun player. He's got good size. He blocks some shots. Duran killed him that second half.
Yeah.
Duran's a much better player than Keita is for Boston right now. I think if you ask Boston for free if they could upgrade 1-to-1 Keita to Duran, they would jump at it, right?
Yeah.
So
100%.
it's not just the, well, you could get a lob threat for cheap. Like, yeah, of course you could get a lob threat for cheap, but is the other stuff that Duran does, it's valuable. How valuable is it on a roster that the Pistons are currently building with Cade and Asar, maybe Ron 2, maybe Ivy 2, maybe Duran as well, right? You've got your two pillars, and then you're kind of crafting the ship as it's flying through the air as we continue on through time. So that's the tough question to me, and I don't really know. I've got my own personal opinions, but those aren't based on anything more than just the type of basketball I personally like to watch. You know what I mean? So I think that's ultimately why this was so smart. Like you said, like you want to figure out what these guys have, how they're all going to fit together. And then, maybe you extend, maybe you trade one or both of these guys at the deadline. Maybe you do a sign and trade in the offseason. Who knows, right? It all just kind of, you've got options right now. And I think that's kind of the way Langdon likes it. He's got many pathways that he could take, and he's smart. He wants to take his time to figure out the one that's going to have the best possible endpoint. And that's what you want out of a GM to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that like we're trying to come up here and try to minimize like what he does. I think what he does is valuable. I mean, I'm gonna go back before they even had Duran. Like when they had Stu, what did they do? They trade for Marvin Bagley because they needed a lob threat. I think they identified that Cade needs a lob threat to play with. And what did they do the very next draft? They draft Jalen Duran, who is a lob threat. I think Jalen Duran at 21, going to be 22, I believe, this month. Still very raw. I think in terms of just the prospect that he can be. Like offensively, I think he's still unpolished. I think offensively, there's definitely a mid-range jump shot in there. Don't know if it's going to be displayed this year, but I see him working on it every pregame shoot around. I think defensively is where I have my questions, because when he's locked in, when he's blocking shots, I just would like to see that more consistently. If you show that consistently, I don't think the organization would have any issues with extending and paying and keeping you around. It's just you got to do it on both ends of the court, I think, for them to feel very confident in making that long-term investment. And the final thing I'll say is, like, these are Troy Weaver guys. These aren't Trajan Langdon guys. So he said multiple times, evaluation. I'm evaluating this roster because I don't know how good these guys can actually be. I just need more evidence. And I can respect that because he didn't draft any of these guys that he's about to give contract extensions to.
The only thing I want to add with Duran specifically is that I do really think you have to factor Isaiah Stewart into the conversation, not in the way I brought it up earlier, but in the following way. Isaiah Stewart would probably start on just about any team right now that doesn't have a stud at center. Isaiah Stewart, as of today, is probably, by my estimation, a top 15, if not top 10 center in the NBA. That's the backup right now in Detroit. So that's a guy that, all else equal, you'd love to find more minutes for. If Duran's not here, he's your starting center. Right? Isaiah Stewart has plenty of history starting basketball games for the Pistons too. Look around the league; he'd be getting starters minutes in many teams, many situations. So, how much do you want to pay a center that is gonna, in the best case, split the center minutes equally with his backup? How much are you willing to pay for 24 to 28 minutes a night of your big that you're looking at right now? Because that's another practical question. And that's the situation that they're in right now. Isaiah Stewart is really good. Isaiah Stewart needs minutes. You can't just say, well, we're going to pay this guy a lot and we're going to reduce Stewart's minutes, because well, that'd be bad, right? That'd be bad. No one would say that that's a good outcome here. So that's another question. How much are you willing to pay for 25 minutes a night for a guy? I don't. Those are bench player minutes, just to be frank. And it's not like Duren has positional flexibility here. And I'd be saying that with any other starting center that the Pistons could have right now in contract conversations, as long as they're more of that lob threat offensively, there's not positional versatility. And Isaiah Stewart's right there behind him, taking up 20 to 24 minutes a night. And frankly, deserving more too. If Duren's not here, you'd be Stu needs to be at 36 minutes, right? Like you'd just be running him all the way up if you could. So that's tough too, looking at the per minute basis of the contract. That'll get ugly, even if it starts going north of like 22, which is nowhere near what almost any of us were really talking about as a reasonable extension number.
Yeah, and I think you could attribute Duren's minutes per game to the lack of focus sometimes at the defensive end, because if Duren was the same type of defender that Stu currently is, I don't think Stu would get as much minutes per game. And I know Chuck Brewer brought up a point like, but can Stu play starter minutes? I don't think he'll hold up. I've kind of had that opinions because the guy plays so damn hard. Like the energy, the effort, the some of the blocks, man. Like I saw a play, he blocked his shot, and thank God there was a little bit of protection on the back of the basketball net, because he just slammed into the back of it. I'm sure he was icing his back and his knees after every game, because some of these block shots, Wes, I mean, they are just contested. He doesn't care how many bodies they're going to fly into him. He kind of sacrifices his body just to block a shot. But I think you could kind of argue the minutes per game with Duren and Stewart is just because of the defensive effort that Stu gives you on more of a consistent basis. We see flashes of it with JD at times. It's just not consistent right now. And obviously he's still learning. You know, he said he watches a lot of film of how he can get better defensively. But I feel like you could just kind of pick and choose what avenue you want to go in terms of like debating contract extensions and what you want to give them. But I mean, I think there's a lot there that we like about Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart.
Yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
To be fair though, Anthony, like I know this isn't perfect because in theory Duren could become a better defender, and it's not like Isaiah Stewart could do this. But since you brought it up, like, okay, well, if Duren played defense like Stewart, then of course we'd be excited to extend him. Agreed. And if Stewart could jump like Jalen Duren, we wouldn't be having the conversation either, because now Stewart's a lob threat who can shoot and also plays defense, right? Like if we could just do that, if we could just, do the magic wand there, that'd be great. Like if I could wizard Jaden Ivey to be a huge net positive defender, well then heck yeah, like let's give him Jalen Green money. Let's go, right? He's perfect. If same thing with the Sar, if he could just shoot. But this isn't, that's not the world we're living in. So we kind of have to take the guys as they are. Like, Duren's not a great defender. Stewart's not a good lob threat.
Yeah.
So we got a trade off, and it makes it interesting.
Yeah. We were talking about kind of how each of these centers brings something different skill set wise. Obviously Duren's more of that lob threat. Center. Stu's more of a pick and pop, can bang down low in the post a little, but Paul Reed is just kind of just a mixture of just fun. He can catch lobs, he can block shots, but Paul Reed just likes to steal. He likes going for steals. And like if he has a bad game, which is I always find hilarious, he's like, man, my plus minus was down. I was like, man, is this guy looking at his box score?
He must be. There's not an insignificant number of teams that would be really, really happy to have their big man rotation be Isaiah Stewart and Paul Reed. So what a crazy luxury we got here in Detroit. You got Duren starting, Stu backs him up. If either of them get in foul trouble, you got just this agent of chaos that can come in and change the dynamic of the game as well. And Paul Reed, like it'll probably end at some point, either due to injuries, people aging out, or any contract disputes or trades. But like as of right now, the Pistons are so set at center. It really is a luxury. So like I would just like to enjoy that, at least for the season,
Yeah, for sure. I had so much fun on today's podcast. I do have all your social media links down below in the description for people that do want to follow you, but
You're the
maybe
man.
people
Thank
aren't
you.
maybe people aren't familiar with your work. I want to give you the floor to plug and promote where they can find you.
Yeah, well, the big ones are just the Pistons Pulse. So I'm the producer there, helping Bryce and Omari out in the background every now and then, make an appearance with some Cheater Sham games. But we are going to be recording that on Sunday, so that'll be good, Sunday morning. And then the Pindown as well. So Blake is my co-host over there. That's through Detroit Bad Boys. And we've got that's a good time. We have fun with that one. A lot of live questions, a lot of pre-submitted questions. And of course, we got a phone line that we always drop. You guys can call and actually hear your guys' voice on those shows. Other than that, I'm really not doing all that much. So I'd say make sure you're reading our guy Omari over at the Detroit Free Press, and Bryce's Motor City Hoops Substack is still one of the best free resources out there for understanding basketball and understanding film breakdown, right? So make sure you guys are subscribed to that too. That would be all I've got to plug.
Yeah, I'm surprised Bryce isn't charged for that at this point. I mean, the amount of work that he
It's
puts into
insane. Yeah.
these
I mean, he's
film
doing
breakdowns.
breakdowns almost every game. He's doing prospect breakdowns. The nice thing for him is he's already doing a lot of these. So it's kind of just like transferring notes into a blog post type setting. But man, the insight that you could get from that, if you ever want to learn like how to watch film too, watch some of the video breakdowns that he does. It's such a great free resource. And we get it here as Pistons fans specifically. Like that guy could be doing stuff for any team, right? He's doing it for
Yeah.
Detroit most often, and that's so cool. So we got a great content creating community here, and it's awesome to be a part of it.
Yeah, there's so many great podcasts out there, whether it's your guys' podcast, the Pin Down, the Pistons Pulse. I feel like every year there's just a more Pistons podcasts. Like I've gotten reached out to like 3 new people that are starting Pistons podcasts this year that like want to invite me on the show. I was like, man, like the community is huge with these
Man,
Detroit
it's a
Pistons
big
podcasts.
boat. Like, start up the podcast, invite us on. Like, we'll plug you guys. Like, there's so much room for Pistons coverage. It's not like these podcasts we're eating into each other's audience bases at all. There's more listeners out there that don't even know that we're doing these yet, and the Pistons are starting to become good and nationally relevant, and that just means that the base is going to grow. So yeah, start a podcast. Give Anthony
Yeah.
the call. Have him hop on. Me or Blake, we'll be happy to do it too. You'll come on our show. Like this is
Yeah.
all. We'll help each other out here in the Pistons podcast community because it's a big boat. Hop on.
I always say there's enough room for all of us to eat because we all have different opinions. We all do something different. I'm a sicko and do post game shows after every game. Doesn't matter what time it is. Like tonight,
Man, Blake and I tried to do that, and it got so late, and then we're just like, nope, we're not. We're gonna push. We're pushing this. I don't know how you do it. I respect the heck out of you, man. It's great. I can't. I get too tired. I'd be sleeping on air.
Oh man, a lot of coffee. Stayed up. I still remember the Jaden Ivey Sacramento West Coast game. It was like 3:30 in the morning, and what was funny is Dwayne Casey like dropped in the chat. And he was like watching live. I was like, wow, that's crazy, man.
I mean, you didn't even need coffee for that one. That was a heck of a shot. That alone, the 4-point play game winner. Oh, come on. You don't need anything. That'll jolt you awake. Excuse me.
Oh, it did. It did. When we were down there, I was like, are we gonna win this game? We'll wrap up the podcast. This is always good to hear. Glad to hear you guys. I'm following from Mexico. Also, the podcast is international. Shout out to you, man. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Had someone from Japan actually like hop on a
All
podcast
right.
with me.
Cool.
Spoke perfect English. I was like, wow, okay, we got international Pistons fans everywhere. And I credit Tom for that and Jack. They're the guys out there saying, hey, like be a Piston fan, don't be a Laker fan like everybody else.
Yeah, and hey, Arturo, are you anywhere near Mexico City? Like Pistons, this might be your shot. You know, go see if you could snag a ticket. I think I saw they were sold out. So I don't know, I'm sure someone's scalping out there. Maybe give it a go. Who knows?
Oh, scalping a ticket in Mexico City. I could totally see someone getting taken advantage of there.
Yeah, and like even from a legitimate scalper too, that's probably some risky behavior as well. So there's the risk on both sides. Could be the perfect opportunity. That's all I'm saying. No, hopefully you already got a ticket if you're close by. If not, super cool that the Pistons. Oh, first row, let's go. Yes, enjoy the game, man. That'll be so awesome.
If you're sitting behind the Mavs bench, just give them some shit. For sure.
Yep, as much as you can. Get in their heads. AD's not even playing.
Glass Davis isn't playing. Surprise, surprise. Hey, man, it should be a good game tonight. We'll see you guys later, probably like 10 hours from now. Maybe it depends how many fouls there are, but we'll see you guys in the post-game show later tonight. You guys are having a great afternoon. Peace, you guys.